This is your favorite Anne, at least I assume I'm your favorite Anne, except for those of you who like have significant others who are named Anne, in which case I'm probably your secondary Anne. But at any rate, hi, it's afternoon here at Reaper headquarters, and we have dragons. We have dragons to paint. And that Madame Drakkar thing with Mel Drakkar running a brothel for dragons, that's awesome. That is fun.
I'm on board.
Actually, it's megature, guys. Miniatures and megatures. Mel Drakkar is a megature. Yeah, Anns are not as common, I guess. Anne has never been. I can't remember. Somebody will have to do a baby name search and say, when was Anne a popular baby name? Because I know even when I was in school, Anne was not, like, I was the only Anne in my entire high school. I was only Anne with an E, and there was one other Anne was A-N-N. But that's it. And that was like 900 students. So, yeah. Okay, chocolate cherries can take a place ahead of me, Daka Flocko Flame. I totally can get that. Well, I'm a crazy Auntie Anne also, Libralski. I actually have a niece and a nephew, and I am crazy. So, yeah, I guess it's a thing, right? Crazy Auntie Anne. But I'm crazy in a good way. You know, that's what I like to say. Let's see here. And you look so tired. Has Justin been having you help him? No, but I just had to finish speed paint a mini for Ron. Like, there was a mini that Ron really needed, and it wasn't moving fast enough. So after the morning stream, I went right downstairs and like just painted solid into this stream. So yeah, I'm tired. Can I go home? Luckily. Oh, Byron. I like Byron. See, but that's because I like Byron the poet. So I always thought Byron was a pretty cool
yeah, same here,
cool
actually.
Name. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tired of painting these dragons? Oh, yes. That too. But that's why we're going to just block in some stuff today. Yeah. Shame on Ron for taking my day's worth of painting mojo. I know, right? Like, I mean, I am... the thing is that I could have sat there and painted it and not been so tired, but when you have to rush something, like when you have to, like, you're like, gosh darn it, this mini's got to get done, then you're, like, in super focused mode from point A to point B, and that drains a lot of your energy. So, yeah. Anne is 600th most popular girl's baby name, was popular until 1990 when it fell. Interesting. I was born in the 70s, so yeah. But there still were never a ton of Anns. That's a shame. Ron is the scapegoat for all occasions. Do you guys know what my sound check is? My sound check is Ron is to blame for everything. Everything is Ron's fault, is my sound check for this show. Blame Bug Lips has a nice ring to it because you get the alliteration on there, but Blame Ron is a Reaper tradition. Hello, Retired Android.
Well,
all right.
With no further ado, Miss Anne,
I guess we have to actually start painting, and I, don't need to like just sit and talk to people. We need to have that AMA. We need to have the question answering session, so I just sit here and babble at you guys. That's fun. It is pretty cold up here. It's like in the 50s, I think. Yeah, I don't have anything scheduled tonight, so I'll be able to kick back and, well, I have some chores and stuff to do, but I have leftovers, so I don't have to cook. I see. Was 100th most popular until 1990. I see. Wow, Anne really fell. I'm very sad that my name has descended to such depths. I bet like names like Sansa and Arya totally took over. So yeah. Hello, Lord Zyphurius. Hello. You here for the conversation? Painting the minis is a bonus. Good. That's the proper attitude to have. Yeah, painting dog, when it's like 90, I'm like, this is a perfect temperature. I don't joke either. I want my 90s back. All right. Yeah. Ron is officially the scapegoat. Justin is like, get to it. No, but Reaper Toolbox with Arya could be okay, except she just impaled a miniature. We have some heavy shadows going on here.
Yeah, let me adjust.
And I can take his wings off. I just put them on so that I could kind of judge what was going on with him. So I could pick him up and show him to the audience. You guys can look at AnCam. essentially, I put his wings on so I could kind of judge where the highlights and shadows would kind of be. A lot of him is in shadow with that one wing, and a lot of the other part is highlighted. So I'm pretty much just turning him, trying to get an idea, because I want to block in a lot of highlights and shadows today on him to get him really moving along. So this is my goal. So we can take off the wings. These wings pop in pretty well. You have to really squish them to get them in because they curve a little bit much, but once you get them pegged in, they hold still pretty well. All right, so Mr. Dragon. And we did ascertain that this winglet goes a bit over. That's not going to be fun. I may just say, I'm ignoring you, wing, and we're going to paint some white anyway. It's a problem with being realistic when you are painting shadows and highlights. On miniatures, sometimes you can get in trouble trying to be too realistic, because if you don't have a backdrop to kind of put the mini in place, so to speak, then when you try to do, like that wing technically would make a heavy shadow all over this side of the dragon. But that'd be really boring if I painted this whole thing really dark, right? And it wouldn't necessarily be true. There'd be light bouncing, and I mean, a white dragon is going to catch the light. So you can get into trouble with that. So sometimes I'm like, well, I'll make more of this area dark, but I'm still going to use some actual white. And I think I want, what brush do I want? Do I want this brush, or do I want a flat? I might want a flat. I might paint with the giant Reaper flat today. Oh, hey, and our giveaway. Do we want to give away a giant flat brush? We did that before. All right, so my giveaway for the day, guys, because for those of you who caught the morning stream, and if you didn't catch the morning stream, you should go catch it later. We did metallics, and I mentioned one of the triads I really like, which has scorched metal, gunmetal blue, and adamantium black in it. So we're going to give away that triad, and that is the 9742 metallics triad is the item number. So it's going to have adamantium black, which is our black metallic, and it's got scorched metal, which is a fantastic kind of brown burned black. It's good for things like pipes or metal that fire is coming out of or will have fire coming out of it. And then the gunmetal blue, I really like. It's a dark blue metallic. You can highlight it by adding in pearl white, and it's really cool. Yeah, so we're going to give away that. Yeah, I really like it too, Silverthorn. It's one of the more unique triads that we have. So
now that's one giveaway per 5 subs, correct?
Yes, that's true. We still have to get 5 subs. I do not have stickers here at work today. Hi, Art of Mike Disney. You've been stalking us again. Thank you for the host. Yeah, I do not have stickers at work today. I need to just bring in a bunch, Silverthorn. I should put that on my to-dos list. Throw stickers at Justin. I'm going to just start blocking in dark. So my mix, we're going to do a lot of wet blending with the big brush today. I'm using pure white, and then I'm using a mixture of 50-50 pure white and blue liner, which is how I made this bluish color that the dragon started on. And we're going to wet blend them together. And I'm using the paint pretty thin, actually, so that I can get a nice blend. I want to have a darker shadow up near the top where these scales kind of bend over.
Thank you for the gift bomb, Numbat. That means the...
oh, yay!
Look at that. It's open, so you guys can now...
So now you can hashtag
free.
Yes, now you want to hashtag free. Now that Justin has freed you to free, in fact. Ha 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 ha. Sorry. When Anne is tired, Anne makes very silly jokes. Ask my boyfriend. All right. And I'm pretty much using a gigantic brush so I can get this blocked in fast, but you can see what I'm doing. If you look at it, these scales kind of bend over. You see how they bend over because the wing is going to come out kind of like this. So they would definitely be in shadow up there. But I'm going to assume that there's some bouncing light to pick out where the rib cage sticks out, so I am keeping that area lighter. Also, you need to have some variance here. Over here, I decided to put some shadow here because the shoulder sticks out, but the leg kind of cuts in here, and then I'm going to need to put more of a highlight up on his front paw, which is out in front of the wing, and would probably get a nice highlight. I'm blocking this all in with a big brush because later on I can go in and pick out scales and do more fine details. But just like we did on Black Dragon, when you can block in shades and highlights fast, it saves you a lot of work down the road. Then all you need to do is pick out details. So you can paint faster on these big models by doing this. And I'm essentially putting down both colors and then kind of blending them down the middle using the big fat brush. Big fat brush. And that gives me more of a nice gradient. And I do want, ideally, for the dragon to actually end up looking lighter. So you see how when I'm introducing all these light scales up here, it's definitely lighter than the color we're starting from. The color we're starting from is really just a base coat aid, so I don't have to worry about base coating and getting good coverage at the same time as I'm wet blending. Okay, I want a little more white up here. Moobot is very chatty today. No, Joe Pacelli. Actually, Aaron Lovejoy is starting to turn me around to airbrushing, but previously I was never a fan. I was more inclined just to use a larger brush if I wanted to paint something faster, because I really like brushwork. But Aaron, with his approach, and we did a show together, actually, this ToolBox show. What, 2 weeks ago was it, Justin? It was like around two or 3 weeks ago when Aaron and I were both on for the afternoon show, and he did an airbrushing demo, and he talks about his settings and what he does, and it really got me more interested in it, because up to that point I'd tried some other stuff, and I just was like, this is too much of a pain in the butt. So I was never really motivated to get into airbrushing, but I'm tempted. I may have to pick up the Reaper airbrush when it comes out, the cooperative one that we're doing with Badger, because it sounds like that is a really nice airbrush. And since I do have a couple of much more inexpensive airbrushes, but I really don't have a nice one, so I do not feel like I'm getting too much airbrush at home, unlike, paint, where I really have to give myself the talk if I'm going to pick up any new paint, because I have way too much paint. I didn't say that. There is no too much paint, but I have too much paint. Yes, Aaron is wonderful. And yeah, so you should totally catch our show if you didn't, Mark, Art of Mike Disney. Because we did I was the stupid person who didn't know much about airbrushing, and Aaron was the expert. And so we talk about saturation, and we talk about just like basics of how not to bust your needle, or, cleaning your airbrush, or just stuff like that. It's a really good time. I had a ton of fun being on the stream with Aaron. So yeah, I hope you guys catch that. Plus, we talk about and demo the new Reaper airbrush, the Badger one, so, which is pretty snazzy, being black and gold as it is. Didn't you think it was snazzy, Justin?
Snazzy enough that the first shipment that comes to the door, I'm snatching one.
Oh, good. Wait for the Reaper airbrush. That's a good idea. Rings.
Also, coffee, to answer your question. It's not in the dumpster, but it is replaced.
The camera from this morning?
Yes. Out of humor, I might actually give it away.
Oh, my. Grade a table. Ed has wanted to do airbrush line for a while. He's been working, we've been working on kind of figuring out the base for it, like what the big challenge with airbrush lines is that you really can't just add water to your existing paint line to make an airbrush line, because it will fall out of solution when you thin it that much. And you don't always want it like really thin either. I mean, the problem is expectations. Some people shoot thicker paint at a higher PSI or a lower PSI, and some like really thin. So yeah, it's figuring out all those things and how you're going to do it. So just so you all know, here you go. I'm setting up shadows and highlights. You can see, I think, pretty clearly where the light is coming from and where it is hitting, just based on how I have highlighted and shaded. And notice how fast this is. It's not very difficult at all. Thanks, Dr. Rob. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Oh, Moobot is announcing individual entries into the giveaway in chat.
Correct. That was, I enabled that feature.
Oh, okay.
Just because it kind of shows people what the pool of draws are, and it
kind
of reaffirms that it does indeed. It just kind of...
It does register you?
It registers.
Is it hey guys, it's registering you?
It does send out private messages,
Moobot hears you.
It's a little extra.
Moobot hears you. It understands. So yeah, so dragon thing. And these are going to be horns, so I'm not going to paint these. I haven't decided on the frill down the back if I'm going to make it dark. I may actually make it dark just like his wings, his underside wings. Broken camera is sad. Yeah, I mean, it's just, and then what you do from here, actually, I should stop and let it, well, I'll let part of it dry in here and then show you how I would go on from here while I do the tail down here. Let's see. Mr. Tail. But yeah, there, you can see more where the highlights and shadows are falling. And I'm still putting pretty dramatic shadows like here under the rib cage. And this is about a 50-50 mix of blue liner and white, so it's fairly dark for blue. So we'll get down the tail here, and then once this area dries a bit more, I'll go in and do some further detailing to show you guys. I will say one thing, and that is doing this horrendous dragon project has totally made me solidify how I'm going to paint dragons in the future. Like, I quickly learned what was too much of a pain in the butt and what was doable by doing this project. So it was useful. It was useful. But yeah, and you can see, like, just with the big brush, and it's so easy to get a nice blend from shadow to highlight. And this, even like this limb up here has a nice blend going on. There I wanted more of a demarcation because the scale's actually cut under at that point, so I wanted that to be darker in shadow, and there's more of a harsh line there on purpose. But yeah, wet blending with big brush is pretty good. Hey, Ground Zero, how's it going? But yeah, you could totally, Ghost of Christmas Future, we're giving away a metallics triad that we were talking about this morning on the stream, which is the metallics triad of 9124 adamantium black, 9125 scorched metal, and 9126 gunmetal blue, which are some of my favorite metallics. Especially the gunmetal blue and the scorched metal. All right, let's see here. Now I've got a definite where this is in shadow. Again, I have to lift up, you can see on the little tiny cam, but I'm going to lift him up and see where my shadows are. And pretty much on the underside of this tail is a very dark shadow. So I'm going to grab my shadow color and just pretty much block that right in, right up to there. And continue it down here onto his lower tail, which will probably rub off a bit since I tend to hold these guys by their tails. And I'm going to paint lighter color on the upper side of the dragon. Justin asked me if this dragon was going to be white because, you know, right now he's kind of a light blue. But my theory has always been, it's like, if you're painting something white and you start with white, then what do you have to do? Well, you have to put a wash on it. Well, wait, then it's not white anymore, is it? And you have to go up and, like, you know, highlight it and all that. So for me, I'm like, why don't I just start with a slightly darker color than white and then work up and down from there? And so for me, that makes more sense. And it's really all what makes sense to you with your working method. Because, you know, everybody paints different. There's no right or wrong. There's only different. And sometimes when you paint it your own way, you might like come across an epiphany or a cool thought that is like, oh, this is why this works. And then you can, you know, help other people by sharing that with them. So it's always good. But yeah, I like working with a big brush too, because you can cover a lot of ground on a model like this or on another big dragon. Actually, Bishop Odo, only the Bones Metallics have new flake technology. And the new flake is shinier. It's a little bit glitterier, shinier, because a lot of people that were not fans of our old metallics wanted a shinier metallic. So we found this new flake, and it's silica-based instead of mica-based, and it is a shinier flake. Some people don't like the shinier flake. They really like our old metallics, but a lot of people do like the shiny. So that is the difference between the two. All right, let's go to the other side of the dragon. Probably I want to paint his inner limbs in shadow, so I'll get the inside of the leg with my blue-gray. I'm not worrying about his belly right now. I'll get that later. So here. And if I notice that I can see too much of a harsh line, I'll get some white in there and blend it. And I'll get the inside of this. I mean, you might need to mix up more paint. I forget, when you're painting dragons, the paint gets used up very quickly because they're so big. There we go. Okay, Mr. Dragon, let's try to do this side. So just as a kind of contrasty thing, so here's dragon, how dragon started, and here's how dragon looks here. See the drama? See how much more interesting the dragon is? Here. start after. So that's what I'm aiming for, is I really like this look. And now he's starting, I can get him to start looking more white. But I will block in his rear side as well. Boing. There. All right. Let's see here. I'm actually going to mix up a little bit more of my dark blue-gray, which is this one. My blue liner bottle is so old that it's totally like faded out, but it's almost empty. This is the liner colors, white. The liner colors and white are the colors that I typically run out of. Although I've got to say the NMM Gold highlight and shadows also are ones I deplete very quickly. All right, let's get some water in there. Mix it up. Oh, I maybe put too much water in there because I forgot I was using a big brush. We'll find out. Well, maybe not. Could be okay. Hello, Fraley. Good afternoon. We have 63 total flakes. Well, it's not really new anymore, I mean, because Bones paint has been out for a couple of years now, but... Here, we'll just use the other brush to get a little bit of water in that. There. That should be good. Now, if you are working on a dragon with lots of little details instead of like, you know, big areas like this, you can try this with a smaller brush. It's just going to force you to isolate stuff more. It's going to encourage you to do that. Like, if you're using a smaller brush, you might be tempted to go, you know, maybe those are my lights, and then I'm going to put some dark under there and dark under there. You know, you might be tempted to section off more because your brush is small, and you can. When in reality, you know, if you have big brush, you're just going to be like, no way, man, big brush. And you're just going to, you know, go huge, go big with your shadows. Because it makes sense to you visually then because you have a big brush. So think about that when you choose what brush you tackle big models with, because a smaller brush definitely tempts you to kind of, you know, get closer in and concentrate more on details in the beginning. And you need to ask yourself, do I need to concentrate on details right now, or do I just want to block in lights and shadows? This is a Reaper 4 flat, so it's the Pro Paint brushes, number 4 flat. I love flats for painting big stuff like this because I just feel like if there isn't deep texture, the flat covers ground really well. It holds a lot of paint. So, we're getting buffering, Vigo's Peeps. At least Vigo's Peeps is buffering. Justin says, not on his end.
No, we're good.
But yeah, I've honestly just started using this brush a lot on bigger models like these dragons, and I like it. Because it does really encourage me to think in big areas, which is exactly, you know, the way that light would fall on this dragon, right? It's not necessarily, especially at a distance, you're not going to be able to pick out every little area. The light would be falling in big areas on the dragon in general. And then if you get up close, then you might see smaller shadows and highlights. But unless this is a couple of fairy dragons fighting, I think that you're probably looking at these dragons from far away. So, and if they were fairy dragons, they should have butterfly wings anyway. And this paw is sticking out, so I'm going to hit it with all sorts of white. And this hind leg is sticking out. The Reaper Pro paints and the old bottles, anything I need to watch using the newer paints? No, they go together. The biggest problem, if you're using really old Pro paints, Bishop Odo, they have kind of a grainy texture and a like dead flat finish, and the new paints have more life to them, you're going to find. If you're using the Pro paints that were the later iteration of Pro paints, done about 10 years ago, then they're perfectly compatible, no problem. But if you're using really ancient Pro paints, like from the dawn of time before Anne started working for Reaper, then you're going to notice a difference in finish and in smoothness. The new paint's going to be smoother. It's also going to have a slightly more life to the finish. And by life, I don't mean it's glossy, but it's got more luster to it than a dead matte. Dead matte tends to distort the look of colors, which is why I don't like it. We're still a more matte paint than most, but I do not like dead matte for painting. Dead matte also shows every little brush stroke you do, by the way, guys. So you may think that dead matte is awesome until you try it, and then you're like, oh my god, why does my stuff look so terrible? And then you can think about the finish. Yay! Baby dwarf dragons. Hello, Jay. Jay, I saw you join my Patreon. Thank you so much. I was going to send you a thank you message. I ran out of time. Don't worry, I will later. Yeah. Oh, old Partha. Yeah, I used to use old Partha way long time ago when I was like just starting practicing mini painting. I had some Partha paints. I liked some of their colors, but all of my Partha paints died long ago, so I only really was, there were just a couple. I liked their salmon. It was really unusual. All right, let me see here. Darkness. Do. Hey, KSB Snow Owl, how's it going? We're working on White Dragon. I'm using a big flat brush to block in highlights and shadows on Mr. White Dragon. So big flat brush, and I'm working with only 2 colors, a 50-50 mix of blue liner and white, and pure white, and I'm wet blending big areas to try to pick up highlights and shadows, as you can see on this side. So on here you can see, yeah, there you go. You can see how the highlights and shadows have been blocked in, because that way I can go back in and just hit spot highlights and pick out details and stuff like that without having to do a lot of work. Art of Mike Disney, we are not Partha, so we don't have the rights of those. I think Partha actually had a new paint line, I don't want to say 7 or 8 years ago. They tried to do a new version of Partha paints, but don't quote me on that. I just seem to recall that I saw something. But yeah, without swatches and everything, and we honestly, Partha may be gone, but Ironwind Metals is the Partha team, so we wouldn't want to steal their stuff. You know, if they want to do paint line, they've got their own IP, and I wouldn't go there. I'm gonna get a little bit more highlights. There, boom, boom. Yep, Cool Dragon is getting his wet blend on here. Let's see here. There's a lot more light falling on this side of the dragon, so I'm concentrating a lot more on light areas on him. He's got a big block of light area all coming out on this paw. He's got a very solid block of light area coming all down here. He's got a little bit of shadow there and white on his paw, and then we'll get this tail. This tail is all in the light other than this area, so we'll start with dark. Let's see here, and I gotta think about, hold on, I gotta raise dragon up. You can look at the mini cam. I have to see how much light. Yeah, that's a little cut under, so I'm gonna guess that this has some shadows on it too. It's hard because the lights in here aren't strictly overhead, so I kind of have to put it up and hold it in the right position and this kind of imagine how it would be, rather than being strictly correct. But sometimes you have to do that a lot of miniature painting, though. You can't always be perfect on your verisimilitudes, so you just kind of have to make a best guess. So yeah, so there's your shadow coming down off of there because the dragon is vertical more or less, so that area would be in shadow. And then you can see even how the light kind of comes down on the tail there, so we will lighten it up down here. And I need more pure white. Partha EU is still a thing. Well, there you go. But yeah, with the way that people tend to resurrect IPs in this industry, I would never do something like trying to tackle somebody else's paint line, because their chances are they're still out there with the formulas somewhere, and they may like sell their IP or their company at some point. And you just never know. You don't want to be in that situation. So, besides, I've always said it's much cooler to make your own IP than to borrow somebody else's, and I firmly believe that. I am not one to steal other people's ideas generally, although I certainly have made equivalents for some paint colors that I like from other lines, just because I like my paint better. But I would never resurrect an entire line. And even then, my equivalents usually aren't like perfect equivalents. They're just close. There, Mr. Dragon tail. I'm going to get the inside of this leg. And the underside of that leg. Little paw. Gotta get the underside of that leg. Yeah. You gotta be careful.
Bishop Otto. We actually have a new studio being built across the way. We don't know when that's going to be, but that will have traditional setups for an actual studio, unless something that was built and cobbled together.
Hello, Balrog. Justin, do a real studio. We wish. Only $500 away from the 30 grand goal for the koalas? That's very little money. I think somebody should run out and buy their family 10 koalas right this instant. I don't know what they'll do with 10 koalas. Maybe convert them into koala adventurers and run an Australian koala adventures RPG. That is my idea. The koala version of Redwall. How long are the koalas on sale? How long are the koalas on sale?
I don't know.
John might know.
That's something that's been discussed, but not.
Okay, so there's probably no set ending date at this point. Grenadier molds. Somebody, something makes me want to think, I don't remember if Grenadier was ever sold. Ed would know these things. Like, because otherwise recasting can be dicey if you don't know if somebody owns the rights. All right, I need to get the inside of that leg, the inside of this leg. So I'm going to grab my dark color and be careful, because I don't want to accidentally paint over other things. And I need to blend it a little bit, so I grab my light color, try to reach it through these paws, which is the problem with this being all constructed. But I can mostly reach things, so it's not bad. I did kind of put this sucker together and go, can I reach everything? And the answer was, yeah, mostly. So you always ask yourself that question before you put the model together. Oh, that's dark, and that should not be dark. There. Much better.
Also, to preface kind of what John said, though, we have said many times, too, though, that just because it's announced on Reaper Live does not make it canon.
Oh, yes.
It has to be officially announced through, like, other channels for it to be really, really, really be true.
Yeah, because often the next day, everybody's in, like, production meeting, and they're all going, what? So, you know, things do get changed, guys.
So don't be surprised.
The nature of the beast.
Yeah, exactly.
Because anything that we say on here, I mean, we're making a quick call, our brains are distracted, and we may have forgotten a key point about something that would influence the decision. So, yeah, that's why. We always have the freedom to kind of go back and say, okay, wait, not so much. All right, so we have dragon. There's dragon, dragon's tail, dragon's shadows. I probably went a little dark on the tail here. It probably would catch more light than that, so I can throw a little bit more white color onto those scales. And this is something where, and which, as you kind of was implied earlier, an airbrush could come in really handy on this. And you could do it very quickly with an airbrush, as long as you can get fine enough to fit into some of the finer cracks and stuff, or you may need to do some of it with a brush, who knows. Airbrushes can get fairly fine. Well, there's going to be a little bit of overspray probably when you're trying to fit into tight areas. So, all right, I think Mr. Dragon is looking pretty okay, actually. He's starting to almost look like a white dragon now that he actually has some white on him. And even then, it's not pure white. And this is the great thing about doing it this way. Even while I was wet blending with pure white, almost nothing on this dragon is actually pure white at this point. It's really close, but this means I still have wiggle room to take this pure white and highlight points and have it show up. Same problem with when you do a white dragon and you just start with white, right? You're like, you can't go anywhere, right? You're already at the highest point. You're at white. So Yes, yes, yes. Exactly, static display. Yeah. It's like, we're doing X if, and everybody's like, oh my God, they're doing X. Right, yeah. That's exactly the way that people tend to read stuff on the internet. You are correct. So, now we have Mr. Dragon, who I just have to check and make sure that I'm not missing any really dark areas that I should have blocked in. I got the dark area on the throat there. That one's a little bit of a clumsy blend, so I'm actually going to fix that. I'm going to kind of look at it, now that things have dried, I can look at it with a more critical eye and see where my blending wasn't too good. And kind of blend that in a little bit better. You need more miniatures? Planer, that's like me saying I need more paint, I bet. I have a suspicion that you might have a few miniatures already at home. It's so true because I saw it on Reaper Live. Oh my God, please don't give the Ed that kind of power. It's just a bad idea in general. There. Made a little bit of a bloof up here. Lost a little bit of a highlight there. A little bit of one there. And this is a little rough. All right, that's a little bit better. And I feel like this needed to be more white too, but I guess I can go back and just paint those scales lighter. It wouldn't be too bad. So there comes a point where you just have to make a decision. All right, let's see here. I think I'm gonna block his mouth and eyes in blue liner for first. I don't remember if Ron got in trouble at the paint department for Reaper Live statements. It's certainly possible. It's possible that he made... You should never believe any release date that Ron gives on Reaper Live for paint. Let's just put it that way. All right. Green users. Hey, Bob and Julie. Julie, I'm painting your dragon. See, he's all blocked in. I got some of his highlights and shadows kind of blocked in super fast. So he's coming along. He's coming along. It's working out. Ron always is in trouble, Paul John's life. That's why he hides at the long end of the very longest hall up here at Reaper, because it's such a long hall to come and see him that he doesn't get yelled at as much that way. That's what I say. I'm sticking to it. Although it was more in the old days where it was Ron's fault for everything. All right. Dragon. Hey! All right, let's block in his mouth and eyes. And I've given there's classic D&D artwork, but I have seen white dragons painted with dark mouths. So I'm going to do that. I'll just come back in and get his teeth and stuff in the future. I'm going to block everything in here with blue liner. And then I might bring in some of the interior portions of the mouth up with a bit of pink or purple. But I like the contrast between the white scales here and the dark mouth. Like, just imagine he has black gums like a lot of dogs do. And it certainly makes his mouth stand out to do it that way. And it gives a nice dark backdrop for when I put his teeth and tongue in also. Since it's a liner, the teeth will stand out really, really well, and so will the tongue. Really, Bishop Odo? Most mature and friendly chat that you have been in. That's great. I like mature and friendly chat. I'm not a fan of like sensationalistic or provocative or, you know, really crazy over the top chat. Doo-doo-doo. Gonna get his little mouth here. Oh noes. What do we call that? There was a name for maiming yourself in the cause of miniatures, Lurkus, but I do not remember it at the moment. Got the orc skin color. I would probably shade orc skin with like maybe the olive drab. paint Mousesewer, or look at Muddy Olive, although you might need to use a 50-50 mix of Muddy Olive, which is 90-34, and the Orc Skin. That's if you want a more greenish undertone. If you want a more brownish undertone for a more realistic skin, then you could use the Olive Drab, and I think that's 91. Oh boy. Now I'm breaking down finally, Justin. I want to say, because I'd never go to the Olive Drab triad. I know 9157 is down there. So 58? I don't remember. I failed on a triad. My brain is just not, my brain is tired. It's just like, no, triads are not, we're not doing triads right now. But yeah, you want to use an olivey green or a greenish brown for the orc skin. And then honestly, you might look at, for a highlight for it, you might look at Bloodless Skin, which is actually the highlight of the Undead Flesh triad. But it is a pale, greenishy, yellowish color that could be good for that. Let's see, what do we got? Yes, Tyredan. Of all the dragons I've painted, which one is my favorite? Huh. You know, I painted several. I'm going to say, though, that I think that Marthringle, because I painted him like kind of in kind of a coppery orange, I liked him. I liked painting him. I also like the colors I used on Viridius. There we got a dark mouth blocked in, so now his mouth stands out really well. And get his eyeball. And I always fill in eyeballs in dark first before I decide what color they're going to be. So we don't know what color his eye is going to be yet. Right, exactly. Too many questions. Oh yeah, Swampy Dragon. Sorry. I totally forgot Swampy Dragon. Mostly, I don't know, maybe because he went so easy. Swampy Dragon was totally like super fast, easy, like love to paint kind of experience. Don't know why I didn't think of Swampy Dragon, but yeah. It just shows that my brain cells are limited today. There we go, filled in his orbital with dark. Let's see. And then I probably want to do the horns dark because I was going to do the claws dark and already did the claws dark on the wing. If I was painting these as metallic dragons, would you use the same approach? Margaret, excellent question. If I was actually using metallic paint to paint dragons, yeah, I think I would, because you'd want complexity, right? You still want these shadow areas and you want brighter areas. So I think I would actually utilize like glazes and glazes built up with wash medium, or the gloss sealer, sorry, in order to get the shadows kind of blocked in and then go back. And actually that could look really good, Margaret. Now that I think about it, I'm kind of sad I didn't go that way. I never thought about doing that to a metallic dragon. Yeah, those are the silks and satins, George. We did the frost one when we did retro pro paint colors for ReaperCon. I don't remember, a couple years ago. And the frost was like the blue-green, I think. Maybe. I mean, we have the formulas for them. We don't have the original metallic base, so they might vary slightly. We have a different metallic base now than the old Pro Paints had. So they could be not perfect matches, but at some point, that would be an ed call. I mean, get our other horns set up here, and then I'll have to do the back. Yes, don't forget your hashtag free. Let's see here, just check in. Yeah, it's a blue with a hint of green, that Retro Frost Satin, I think. The silks and satins aren't hard to make. Actually, you could recreate pretty much any of them just by taking 9100 Pearl White and mixing some clear brights into them, guys, just so you know. I kind of had that in mind, in fact, when I made the Pearl White. That is one of the uses that I demonstrated on this morning's stream. And the reason that I say that is, honestly, the silks and satins didn't sell very well when they were out, and so it may not be practical for a Reaper to put them out again, but you can just make your own. And you can make your own custom one by using the clear brights. So just use a lot of drops, like 6 drops of 9100 Pearl White, and then just start adding whatever clear bright colors, purple, blue, green. If you want to do an orange one, though, use lantern yellow and add just a touch of clear red. Then you can do the fire glow or whatever it used to be called. Although technically fire glow, I think, had a gold flake, so you might want to use 9051 instead. Just kind of chilling and painting dragon horns. Yeah, we're giving away a metallic triad today. It's going to be 9124 adamantium black, 9125 scorched metal, and 9126 gunmetal blue, one of my favorite metallic triads. More horns. We'll paint in all of our little claws. See, he's coming. The black horns really make them stand out against the white. Let's see here, I gotta make sure, pardon me, while I turn him at kind of a weird angle, I wanna make sure I get the underside of the horns, which is hard to see when I'm holding him at a certain angle for the camera. Because that's the most annoying thing ever, when you totally miss a big strip on the underside of something, because you never turned the model upside down. There we go. I think we need chill tunes, Justin. I'm kind of sad we don't have a soundtrack. Buying some purple Reaper paints on Friday. Yay, purple Reaper paints. Durasheet. I don't have the formula in front of me. Nomad Zeke, is that the brownish one? Or is it bluish? I mean, when you're dealing with... Or is that not a brown or blue one? I thought it was a steel one, or is it a goldish, bluish? I mean, honestly, it usually is just that easy as taking a silver metallic that's around the same color and just adding a tiny bit of clear blue to it. You can or adding a little bit of like gunmetal, depending on if you need it to be darker at the same time. It really is that easy with most metallics, just to tune them. Made a blorf there where I hit the scales underneath the horns, so I just stopped to touch it up. Let's see here. Dragon Rar. Metallic Dryads. We could also paint metallic Dryads, except we don't really have a nice big Dryad model to paint metallic, and I don't like painting, you know, small models of metallics, so I'd have to do an NMM Dryad instead. Justin is laughing at us. Or he's laughing at something else he's watching.
No, I'm laughing at you guys.
Okay.
Definitely you guys.
Yeah, Gamma Shielding Gold. I mean, again, it's a rich gold color that's got a bit of red and brown in it.
More specifically, metallic Dryads made me chuckle.
Yes, metallic Dryad. So that's just it. You need to paint an NMM Dryad. That should be one of the requests for the morning show. We could totally do that. I can grab one of those old Werner Clock Dryads, the Warlord Dryad that used to be in the Elf Army. She's the best one, I think. All right, there we go. Oh, we can do claws. Claws. I guess I can block them in. I probably should not be using such a tiny brush, but I don't want to make blorfs. Blorf being a technical term. There we go. So I'm just going to have black claws to stand out. And I usually do that if I go pale with a animal's color, I will make their claws dark. Even though it's terribly hard to, like, you know, trim the nails on my dark-nailed dog. So you'd think that it would give me a phobia of dark nails, but I figure I'm never going to be, like, you know, going after a dragon with a nail trimmer, so I can give a dragon dark nails if I want. Manicurist for dragons, though. They probably don't like seeing dark nails walk into the salon. Metallica dryads would be an entirely different thing. There should be a dryad triad. You had to go there, Panzer Lagwagon, didn't you? All right, so yeah, so you can see how the dark claws really make his little paw stand out. Oh, you can't, except because I'm not on a there, kind of. We have just weird, there we go, dark paws. So yeah, all his claws will be dark. All right, let's, it's not black, actually, it's blue liner, Vijapoto. I love blue liner. It's just, when you just paint it on by itself, it's a blue-black, which goes well with our otherwise bluish dragon, and I used it to make this bluish shadow color, so it all goes together then. But yeah. All right, so let's see here. I can see some spots I missed when I was wet blending. Now that I take a closer look. Once it dries, you know, then you take a closer look and you're like, oh my. Oh, gems on demi-liches. And if they're tiny gems, honestly, gosh, those are hard. I mean, some people use metallics and just put, like, bright colors over the top of the metallic in kind of a heavy wash to do that sort of thing. It depends on if the gems are round or if they're faceted. Faceted are difficult. And I can't really describe that in, like, you know, a couple of sentences, sadly. Let me see, I'm going to get his nostril. Yeah, glaze a red over silver or over a bright gold if you want a slightly different color. But yeah, or over pearl white, although pearl white's not quite as shiny. But yeah, a lot of people do that for shortcuts for tiny gems. They'll do that. They'll put down a bright metallic and then they'll put a glaze of a color, a transparent color over it. It's kind of the quickie method. And then you could gloss coat it also. Put a gloss sealer over it. All right, let's see here. I want to bring out some of these scales, and I think I want to use a bigger brush than that. So let's go to our DaVinci Series 11. So now, looking up here, I need to bring up my highlights more, although on the camera he looks very, very white on these areas, but it actually isn't quite pure white. So, and I think I need more water. At this point I have to thin my paint a bit more.
Thanks for the sub, Chewy.
Yay, subs. How many subs are we up to?
We're at 7, so we're 3 away from a second triad being given away.
Oh. Sweet. Yeah, it looks cool just pretty much with the base coat on it. I do agree, actually. I do like the initial wet blended look. Then you got to go in and figure out, maybe I do need a skinnier brush if I'm going to do the face. So I want to thin down my blue-gray paint a bit so that I can line with it. And get a thin brush. Okay. Yeah, you could use it. Oh my gosh, Jacob Jansen. Holy wow, look at you. 23. He wants us to give away a lot of triads. Lots of triads. Let's see here. Now I'm going to try essentially putting in some darker shadows in
Thank
smaller
you very much,
areas.
Jacob.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. That was fantastic. So, with my smaller brush, huh?
Jacob just hit the 1,000 total gifted subs in this channel.
Holy wow.
We have to do something special. I just don't know what it is yet.
Yes, I agree. Specialness must ensue.
That's crazy, Jacob.
Yeah, that is like crazy generous right there. So I'm taking a little bit of my blue-gray, and I'm actually blocking in some smaller shadows, guys, where they would go, where the big brush just wasn't precise enough. So like underneath the eye here, the cheekbone. I actually do think I want this, this ear membrane to also be a dark color so that the ear stands out. There. I can do that a lot easier with a smaller brush. There we go. All right, so now I want to kind of come in and, let's see, that's still wet, so I shouldn't do that. I do want to suggest some shadows where before I just had blended layers. So I can actually come in and put lines between the scales at this point if I want to. Or just between some of the scales to make them stand out. And on the upper side of the dragon, probably for his top of his head, I want to put a little bit of shading between these scales up here. Just so we can get a little bit of definition. Because if it's just all blank white, it's really hard to make those scales stand out. So I'm just loosely lining, essentially. Dragon scales are an excellent way to practice your lining. They tend to be quite forgiving. There we go. And just a little bit of shadow isn't going to keep the top of his head from looking pure white either. Get a little bit more shadow here. And you gotta have some sort of shadow or darker color there so that when you put really pure white highlights on, it shows up. So we just kind of blocked out some of his scales. Thanks, Paul John's Life. Have a great night too. I'm going to grab my pure white at this point. And bring up these top scales to actual pure white. And I want them to kind of stand out, so I keep the dark in between them. But that way at least I'm bringing them up to pure white. Sadly, the camera has a little bit of trouble with it, but you can kind of see, there we go. See a little bit of our shadows blocked in. I think that might be a little strong, so I'm actually going to pick up a little bit of a mixture of my shadow and white and minimize that a little bit. Around the head, I'm inclined to be a little bit more titchy and to spend more time on precision shading and highlighting because the face is an important part of the model. So when it comes down to the body, I won't spend as much time trying to make the scales like really stand out or look neat necessarily. Instead, I'll spend more time on the face because a lot of people will be looking at this. It's the dragon from Dance of Death, Varl. It's the dragon that's up top with the two dragons fighting, and it'll be out this summer, and we've been painting it for a long time. So this is the second dragon for it. I am almost finally done with it. If I can just get Mr. Second Dragon here to get finished. But it will be a start to finish painting project, and you can always go watch previous Reaper Toolbox live episodes to see how it progressed. But yeah, so I'm a lot more inclined to spend more time blending and making the face look good and making sure all the parts show up well. Whereas on other parts of the model, I might not feel the need. go. Got to get his eye to stand out, so you want to put that little highlight on that lower eyelid. And then I want to get this cheekbone. See how that makes it stand out. And then I'm probably going to leave it. I'm going to leave that shadow there, but I am going to bring up each of these scales with just a little touch of white. Now, this is where surface control comes in. What I call surface control is essentially the proportion of highlights and shadows that you put on your models, and specifically on each area of the model. So see how just that little white highlight there picked up these scales, but they still don't really look like, they still are in shadow, right? Because I painted them dark to begin with. So this is key. If you want to, you can always highlight something. Just keep your highlights tiny if you don't want them to look really bright. The size of your highlights will directly impact what color the surface looks like what color the surface appears overall. So with these guys, if I'm working with a shaded area, it's important that most of that particular area be a blue-gray instead of a pure white, but I can still apply a tiny touch of pure white to make individual scales stand out. Let's see, anything else? Ah, yeah, with the scales on the beholder, which your beholder turned out really well, Coobs. Did you post a picture of that? I know you posted it on my Discord. Did you post it on the Reaper Discord? Or are you not on there yet? Because that was really nice. I thought it was a really nice take on that model. Yeah, Bandar, I think that is entirely a good strategy. Absolutely. So I'm going to take some of my pure white and I'm going to highlight these this little frill here. And if you find that you're doing that, but that the bits of it aren't standing out as much as you would like, grab some more of your shadow color and make sure that the shadow between each one of those little frills is dark enough. So that's lining, again, emphasizing a shadow. And the shadow actually is sculpted on, so you're not like making up anything. We'll kind of bring that shadow into here. Hit it around the lower part of that lip. There. So that's starting to come. See how the head is really starting to come out now, guys? So it's all those if you're not going to spend much time on your dragon, just concentrate at least on bringing the face out nicely. Let's get some more white and do that muzzle. Not yet, Coobs? All right, cool. And I'll actually, let me get these little, need a little bit stronger white. Sometimes if you try to put a white highlight on something and it's just not working, you might have your white too thinned, or it might just, might need to pick up a little bit more. So I'll put a little bit of white on these little scales, and then on this upper lip. There we go. Excellent, excellent. Hashtag freeze. We have an awful lot of freeze now, and it's a cool metallics triad. So definitely get your hashtag free in if you have not. All right, so there we go. His head's looking pretty good there, I think. Pretty decent, not too bad. Rawr, he says. Jay, I'm working pretty thick with this one actually, because I'm not so much trying to layer in this instance as to put a kind of a touch of highlight on the scales. And because you're dealing with so many small segmented surfaces, I have it much thicker than I do for a normal layering consistency. I'm going to say maybe a 3 to 1. Because I want it essentially, when I'm hitting these tiny scales, I want it to be solid, right? I want it to be, the color to be bold. I want it to be bright white. And to do that, I need to keep it thicker. If I thinned it too much, then it would be kind of, was see-through when I put it down on these scales, and then I'd have to sit there dabbing a scale over and over to bring up the color. But if I have the paint too thick, it won't come off my brush nicely. So it's that that kind of dance between thinning it enough so that it comes off the brush, but keeping it thick enough that you get a nice solid brush stroke when you lay down a highlight of white. There we go, and now I want to get some highlights down on these under part areas. And again, I'm just going to kind of hit a little bit. I don't want to get too much. I just want to suggest the scales are there. But I don't want them to be pure white because they're in shadow. So there we go. So I've got a little bit of that in. As long as it still reads like it's in shadow, I'm good. Silverthorn, probably going to be doing that toward the end because I'm going to be pegging these models into everything, and then I'm going to do essentially touch-up painting, which we're going to have to really make these cameras do some gymnastics when I do that. Let's see. Well, I'm pretty happy with that black dragon, that face so far, actually. I do want to add a little bit more white to some of these underscales. Just a little bit. There would be some reflected light down there, so it's not a far cry from reality. All right. And pretty much then when I go over to the next scales, I might thin my paint a little bit more. Let's take a look. But I'll probably be doing kind of a... I'll be doing a layering brush stroke. And again, this is the thing. It's kind of a marriage between expediency and you still want it to look good. So you got to figure out a paint consistency that lets you get the strong color you want so you don't have to go over these 5 times per scale, but that still isn't too harsh so you can still see it kind of blend in. So that's why I'm still on my around 3:1, but you can see that's showing up. So you can see now this looked white under the camera, but now when I go in with my pure white, you can clearly see that it's not. But it's close enough that it's still going to convey the effect of a white dragon. And for this, I'm covering a good 2/3 of the scale with my pure white, and that is going to make the entire dragon go white because I'm covering more than 50% of the surface with pure white then. White is a hard color to paint. Adam Ryan. Yeah, white is hard. Yes, for sure. Yes, this is why I'm covering this. It's actually kind of why I decided to do a white dragon because I figured I could talk about painting white, how hard it is. But you want to cover a lot of the surface with white or near white in order for it to read right. Read as a white dragon and not a light gray dragon. A lot of people make that mistake, and they also the other mistake I see is making your shadows too dark. I didn't go really any darker than this medium blue gray, and a lot of that is probably going to get covered up with a lighter blue gray when I go in to detail these scales. So in that case, did green users. Oh, you like it? Good, yay! I always like Julie to say that she likes how I'm painting her kids. Base coat color Corsair is kind of a combo of this. This is a 50-50 mix of blue liner and white. So this is kind of halfway between that and pure white. So probably 6 drops of white and maybe 1 drop of blue liner, I want to say. Maybe 2 drops of blue liner. You just want a real pale blue-gray, essentially. And then I just finished wet blending a bunch of it, so now it's not even the color it started as, which is more like this, the frill on the back of the tail here is more the color it started as. I probably should have just painted it on one side and left the other side bare so that I could, show the before and after, but I really wanted to kind of get some work done on this dragon today. So for the underside of the neck, if I want to pick out these scales, I'll do the opposite. I'll probably line with a slightly darker color. And lining means that I won't make it the whole thing discernibly darker since the lines will be pretty thin. But it lets me, and again, this is great practice to get better at lining because dragon scales tend to be pretty regular. And you're just doing a bunch of lines. And if you mess up, you can just touch up the scales anyway, so. All right. And yes, for those who don't know, Green Users is in fact Julie Guthrie and Bob Rodolphi. Julie sculpted these dragons. She might have had some help from Bob too. They tend to hand off their projects to each other. And it's very hard these days to tell where one of them has sculpted part of the other one's project, which I think is pretty cool. I told my boyfriend he and I should start doing that. It's like if I get sick of a project, I'll just hand it off to him. And if he gets sick of a project, he can just hand it off to me. I don't know, though. That might not be a good basis for a relationship, depending on if we decide we don't like what the other one did. Could get into trouble that way real fast. All right, so I'm just taking that thin blue-gray, and I'm picking out these little scales.
By the way, Miss Ann, we
Yeah.
are 1 sub away from 7 triads.
Oh, we need 1 lousy sub. Hey, guys, figure out who needs a sub. Like, give somebody a sub. Or if you have Amazon Prime and you have not subbed anybody on Twitch, be aware you get a free Twitch sub a month with Twitch Prime. So if you have an Amazon account and you have not subbed to anybody, you should be able to sub for free without paying anything else than what you are already paying for your Twitch account or for your Amazon account. Be aware. There we go. Gonna get... So whether I do the darker lining or whether I just go with white over the scales, the difference there, the deciding factor there is going to be whether the area is in shadow or in highlight. If the area is up above where the light would be falling down on it, I'm just going to highlight these scales and leave that pale blue-gray between them. But if the area is in shadow where it would be darker and is darker already, that's where I'm going to line the scales to make the areas darker that way. So as you can see, both ways make the scales stand out, but it's a different look. All right, Green Users. Thanks, Jacob.
And thank you, Adam Wren, for continuing your gift.
Oh, yeah. Woohoo. Sweet. Now they have the skull. That's good. Green Users should have the skull. Awesome. So, yeah, I'm liking we've been working on this area up here. We actually got a lot done today, guys, didn't we? We got all this blocked in. And we started on detailing the face and head, and I think it's actually pretty okay. I'm liking it. I think I might continue lining its chest right now. But what time is it, Jason, or Justin?
We're approaching 4:30.
All right, so yeah, it's been a stream. Yes, everybody thank Jacob. He has been a fantastic person today through giving you all subs. Given he's a fantastic person most days, to judge by his gifted sub entry. Yay. Lining the scales. More scale lining. Yeah, getting a real thin brush, small brush, Dilbert dog, does really help you. The thing to remember about them is that you will need to use slightly thinner paint with them for them to work very well. They don't work with thick paint very well. Yeah, if you use thicker paints, then a bigger brush will give you better mileage. But if you want to do really fine details like this or lining, it does help to have one nice detail brush with a thin, sharp tip. And take very good care of it. Don't leave it in your paint water. Rinse it frequently. And if it starts to poof, do apply some brush cleaner to it or brush soap, your choice. And I think I'll just finish lining this little bit and then we can do our sub or our giveaway choices. Are you all queued up for that, Justin?
Yes, I am.
All right, there we go. All right, go ahead, hit it. He's choosing. I hear the clicking. Be careful you don't go too small, Dilbert Dog, because if you get your brush goes too small, because you'll see on this one, it's actually quite long. I mean, it's not a tiny, tiny little brush. It's more thin than anything. If you go too small, the problem is that the paint's going to want to dry on your brush before you get it to the mini. So be careful about getting too small of a brush. I find that a larger brush with a good tip is better than a tiny brush. Yeah, Silverthorn. That's why I like them. Like, that's why I use DaVinci's. Tell me truthfully where I ever been. Yeah, Dice for Hire. I mean, look. I mean, much progress today. And the other dragon is pretty much done. So, and the base is done. So, thanks, Ebolden. Yeah, we like to be informative and draconic at this time of day. You can also, if it's the right time of day for you, you can also catch me in the morning at 11 a.m., Monday through Thursday. Yeah, we worked on his, on regular, like broad scale highlights and shading today for those who just came in, and then I was detailing the face and a bit of the neck.
Oh, hey, look at that. Bolden, I think is how that, or E. Bolden. Mm-hmm. It's their first time here, so everyone say hi and welcome them.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Welcome.
And also, I just drew our winners.
Oh, winners. Yay, winners. Thanks, Coffee Nerdery Beer.
Miss Anne, if you're ready.
I am ready, and Mr. Dragon is ready too. Roar! Yay, we're back. Hello! It's Anne again.
I'm going to go ahead and announce in chat the winners. Our first winner
it makes sense, Dilbert Dog.
Dilbert Dog 1.
Dilbert Dog, yay, there you go.
Hyper Bunny 99. Ultron 2120.
Oh, Jacob, you're so sweet. He just gave a tier 1 sub to Ebolden.
Thank you, Jacob. That's awesome, yeah.
There you go, Ebolden. Come back. Watch us again.
RetiredAndroid.
Oh, cool.
Jedininjadruid.
Cool. All awesome people.
Pewterrooster. And Unknown Hero.
Lots of people who talk in chat. I like it when people who talk in chat get the giveaways. It makes me happy. Because then I feel like I know you and I know the person getting the giveaway. Super. Oh yeah, we were hosting Joe the Brush. Yep, yeah, we raid people after our streams. We raid another painter or artist, and it's not always miniature painters either. Sometimes it's 2D or even computer like graphics artists.
We like to spread the love.
Yeah, we like to spread the love on all the art. But yeah, I'm Anne. If you don't know who I am, I made the paint line for Reaper Miniatures, so I actually created Reaper Master Series, and now I also have done a bit of staff painting in my day for Reaper. So.
And if you won, you need to send your email. I'm sorry, not your email, your address and your handle exactly as it appears on Twitch, right, Ann?
Yes, you must send your handle to Justin at reaperlive@reapermini.com. Give him your...
Or giveaways at Reaper Mini. They both go to the same place.
Oh, well, I've memorized the one.
That's fun. You can keep telling people Reaper Live. That works too.
So, yeah, Reaper Live at Reaper Mini or giveaways at reapermini.com. Please give him your Twitch handle exactly as it appears on Twitch so there's no confusion. And give him your mailing address so that he can mail things to you. And thank gosh it's getting a little warmer in the world, so hopefully we'll have less trouble with paints prospectively freezing because that's never a good thing.
I agree.
Yeah. Yes, send stuff to Justin. He wants to send you free things. It's good. You should empower him to do this. All right, guys. Yes, I hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to do more metallics on the ogre guy. I was thinking maybe we would do, like, make up a triad for copper. Like, because we don't have a triad for metallic copper, but I know what colors I would use, or at least I have an idea. So maybe we'll do some experimenting and maybe get some verdigris out and see if we can verdigris in copper, like one of the shoulder pads or something. I don't know. It'd be fun, right? So maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central USA Central Standard Time. And then tomorrow night is Reaper Live with Ed and Ron, and tomorrow at 3 is Painting Platinum with Sadie. And do we have a show tonight?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, Justin is actually ready to fall over.
All right, guys, I have our raid going, and this fellow seems to be painting some GW stuff.
Okay.
But
spread the love anyway.
Spread the love, yes.
Thanks for coming. Have a great day.
Keep being awesome, guys.
You bet.
And spread the Reaper love.